Hey, welcome to another episode of Building Site. I'm going to work today on site itself, which is this bit in the middle of the diagram. And we're going to have a look at login boxes. We did set up our site last week. I'll show you where we got to. So we'll start an Emacs session running. And in my site directory, we will start site locally, jacking in or running on the terminal, and just wait for that to fire up, and we'll get our REPL. And this is what our REPL looks like. We're just going to, I did some mucking around just now on the REPL because I changed a few things. Right, so I'm just going to commit that. Show resources that don't have types. Okay, we're ready to start. So these are the resources that we have. We've got just a minimal set of resources that show us enough to go to. Well, let's try localhost 2021. Not found. Something not found. Let's try foo. Okay, nothing there. Let's try this login form, which I've just added. How did I add that? Well, site has an optional directory called opt, and in there is some extra resources. We're going to build that up. We're going to build some Swagger UI resources in here, and over time, quite a lot of things that optionally you might want in your site installation. It is a bit rudimentary at the moment. And what's that? Hang on, just check. But what I want to show is how we can produce our own login form. And also I'd quite like the login form to appear on a 401 rather than just having to navigate to it, because this is useful if you get to click a bookmark and it takes you to something you haven't logged in. You want to be presented with a login form and not necessarily just a kind of 401 error message. So we're going to show how to do that with 404. So let's just create a thing that I don't have a resource for, foo.html, and we will go into some code here, which is going to play around with this, make a few changes. So this is going to be right. I'm going to put in a not found resource here. So this is a thing called an error resource. These are just maps I'm going to put into site. This is going to say that this HTML here, saying not found, or just change it. So we could not find this resource. Okay, that's the error message I want on a 404. And what we're going to say is that we're going to register a resource with 404. And hey, we could register it with other things too, because it is Crux, and you can put anything at many cardinality. But anyway, we're going to say this is registered 404, and we're going to say that this resource here, which is a thing and has some content and a content type, is a variant of our error resource. So what happens in the code, we can demonstrate it. Let's go and have a look at the code here. So what happens if we don't find foo.html? Well, what is the story of a request? There's a bunch of middleware here. Key one here is called wrap locate resource. It locates our resource by calling this function ultimately. And it will go through looking for things like, well, is this a cached request? Is this can I find it in our OpenAPI documents? Nope. Okay, well, can I find it perhaps in the database? Nope, it's not there. And there's this kind of locator mechanism, plugins and things. There might not be a redirect. And then finally it says, right, you're an empty resource. It's still a resource, but a resource we might want to put something over. But then we go back to another piece of middleware. Remember that the resource that we've located now will be looking like a locate resource. Let's try that. Sorry, try that again. The resource that we found will look like this. This is called a backstop resource or an empty resource. That's the thing that we find, that we return if we don't find anything. It's not nil though, because it does have some methods, like you might be able to put a representation over it. So a resource is more of an abstract thing. When we do REST, we communicate a resource's state through a representation. And we have this find current representations where we say, well, given this resource, do you have anything that you can show me? And one of the ways that we find representations is by looking for these variants. So these variants are part of a query. We're looking for something that has a variant of. Well, we just put one in here, variant of. So this is a variant of the thing that we're looking for. And if we find one of those, then we will serve it up. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so we're gonna bring up a terminal, get my token. Let me change into my opt directory, my login form, and let's deploy that. Now we go to foo.html, we'll hit this error resource, and that will hit our current representations, and we won't find any because this is foo.html. If we don't find any variants for foo.html, we then, when we go to current representations, and when we go to serve, yeah, once we've found our current representations, if we find that that's an empty set and the method is getOurHead, then this is where we say there are no representations, it's a 404. That gets thrown. That's an exception that we throw, and it gets picked up later on with this middleware here called error handling. This is where we look to see, well, is there an error representation, an error resource? Is there one? Well, let's have a look. If we find back in the database, if we find something with a type of error resource, hey, we've got one with a status of, well, 404 in this case. Okay, then we will put all the attributes of that entity resource up, and that will become our error resource. How exciting. And then we can serve that up, and we down here will ask it for any representations. Here's our friend current representations. It will then find this one, and this is what we will serve. That will become the representation that we negotiate. Or we could find multiple ones of those, and that's an interesting one, because we could, let's try doing through HTML using curl. What do we get there? But we say we are only interested in, I don't know, text plain. Okay, that's not found either. Okay, now let's put our resources in. Now when we click on the browser, we could not find this resource. And indeed, we could make that a nice, we'll make that an H3. And redeploy. It's now an H3, don't believe me, there it is. What if we do a curl asking for text plain? Well, we still get the original error message because we weren't able to negotiate a different representation for that. We only accept as curl text plain messages. There isn't one, so we'll get the default not found. And if we look at our headers, you'll see that we get 404 not found, and this is a plain error message, and yep, because we accept plain. If we don't accept anything, then we still get that's fine. So okay, let's give it a plain text. Let's maybe call that text, doesn't really matter. Let's give that plain, and we could put that, that's the plain variant. Okay, yep, they're both variants of. Let's deploy that, and now we will do exactly the same thing, but hey, we get a different error message. Okay, let's put a new line in there because it's kind of awkward when you don't get one on the terminal. Let's deploy that again. Okay, so that's content negotiation, that's how it works, and also using error resources. Now, content negotiation is built into Site both at the resource level and at the error resource level. Was I expecting? No, I'm not expecting anything. You could look for this one. If I said, let's look for site errors not found, but I don't think I have permission to access that, unless, of course, I have an access token of a super user, and then I can. But that's saying can't allow to get that error resource because it doesn't have a method on it that allows me to get it, and it's not a content, doesn't have anything. Yeah, okay. Now I want to have a login form that will okay, could not find that resource either because we need to deploy our login form with this asset, and that arrives at site login.html. Okay, so let's imagine that we have something that we want to restrict. So let's put in a little test resource. I'll call this secret. And I'm going to say that is I'll put some content in here saying this is the secret word. Bananas. Okay, now let's see. And we should be able to deploy that. And we should be able to, well, if we were Mal, we would be able to find it. Again, let's just, method not allowed. Oh, well, yeah, I think the method not allowed is that it's not indicating the methods that we are allowing for it. And I have a suspicion that well, let's have a look and see what that login form looks like. Here it is. What does this actually look like? It has a type, it has these methods. I think this is what it would need. Okay. Ah, no, that's not what I wanted. Well, maybe it was. Don't think I need to be a static representation, that's all. I will make, I'll say, the methods that we support will be get, head, and options. Whoops. Let's deploy that. Let's go and get the secret. this is a secret word of bananas, and I still forget to put my 9 feet on there. Okay, but that's because I am using the secret credentials, but I'm not logged in here. So if I do here, I should get a 401. So I want this to redirect me to a login box. Well, we can start off, which we've got here. So we want this to redirect. How do we do this? Well, it's not quite easy. We can put in a little error source with a 401, and we can say that is unauthorized. Let's put this down here, and let's have an HTML version of that unauthorized, and this would be the variant for unauthorized, and we'll say this is the unauthorized HTML, and I put here to do redirect to login.html. Let's give that a go. Let's deploy that. And now we have replaced it with a redirect. Now it so happens that with HTML, we can hard code an href, a redirect, and we do that with a meta tag. I'm just trying to think how to do that in this here, because we have a way in sight of putting assets, and this is what we've done to deploy the login form. The login form looks like this. However, we don't have any in sight put asset. We don't have any options to set that it's a variant of. I think that would be quite a nice feature to optionally put a variant. You know, it at the risk of bloating this API. So since this is building site and not a explaining site, let's have a look at the babashka that is behind this site tool. Okay. What happens when we say put asset? Well, let's just search for it. Put asset. Oh, put asset. Here it is. We run this, and we can upload a file. Uses curl underneath, and if you remember the default resource in the handler allowed a put, I think we called it the backstop resource back. Here it is. This allows a put, and when you call it, it calls this put static function, and it gives you this by default. I'm not sure we need that static representation, but that's why anything that's put asset gets given that type. Not sure we need it. I think I will just take a quick tangent and see where else we use that. Not in many places. Let's see. Just in that handler, in the handler test, and in line 454, 400, So there, and 454, and there. So if it is a static representation, then we allow putting over it. It's in the DB. But I feel the putting over it is, and then it, okay. I think we will revisit that another day. Let's put this variant in here. So when we put a static resource, we don't have a variant, but we do pull in, this is how it gets its classification. We do actually have a put variant in the API, which is a bit of a leftover. How does that work? Put variant. It actually had a okay. Don't want to have that anymore. I think it's overcomplicated. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And this is a commit I made earlier this afternoon. I'm going to just run the tests because I think we have a variant test that we need to remove as well. Nope, we don't, but I will just check the variant. We do, but it didn't, what we've done, that hasn't changed. It didn't use the site tool, it used separately the, it just put the entities into the database directly rather than going through the API. No, that's fine. Okay, tests run. Let's go back and see if we can add our splice in our variant capability. Let's do that here. Let's leverage let's copy and paste that. Let's say site variant, and that will be variant of. It was variant of, wasn't it? Yeah. Variant of, and that would be a variant of. Okay. Let's have a look for. Okay. Good. So we need to allow site put asset to have an extra variant, which we will do upload file, classification, variant, okay. Put it in there. And then finally put asset needs to be given that the variant, the resource for which this asset is a variant of. Right, okay, let's see that. Now when we use it, we're going to say deploy, put an asset, this is the login page. I want to have an asset which is, this would be like a 404, a 401 message, right? Let's just try that. Okay, 401 message, and it's going to be a little bit like our login file, but it's going to say unauthorized, and we won't put a form or anything. We're just going to have a little message here. Unfortunately, you need to log in first. Put that as the HTML. Now we can put asset, we can put that 401 as a HTML. I should have used that copy and paste. It's a feature that computers have. And that will now be, well, it doesn't really matter where it is. It can go anywhere. There is 401.html. Okay, and now it's a variant of our error resource. And our error resource was actually here. So we have this one here. I've got to put the for now. I think I just have to put okay, let's deploy that. Didn't like loading up. Well, we'll have to get rid of it. Didn't like overwriting my unauthorized HTML because let's remove that from the database. Bang. Okay, now we won't get that 405 again. Okay, so now when we refresh, we should get the HTML page, which we don't. Oh, because we've still got this one. So get rid of him again, and then deploy this unauthorized HTML. Okay, let's do that. This gives me a 401. Let's see if our resources have gone up correctly. So let's have a look at this one. Does it have a variant of? No. Oh, it does. Let's just have a look at the log. We do this. So the resource provider, the current representations, get a 401. Error resource is this Arizona, and then error representations, we're expecting a few of those, or one of those at least. We don't get any. So find me the variance. Essentially this query that we're doing, where the URI is this. We don't get any. But I thought what we do. The one that I thought was a variant is this one. Variant. That doesn't have a variant of. Let's try that again. No variants going in there. It's in our tote static resource. Variant of. We'll put a little let's just put that, and at the same time we'll have a little log. We should see here variant of. variant of. Oh, that has a variant of. Perfect, that's working now. So the code was right, my test token was wrong. Okay, now we can say that we need to log in. And this is where we would do a little href, do a little kind of meta redirect, which I will actually, I have one. I don't have one already. So this is a refresh. This is going to go to our site login with, we shall, I shan't worry about that for now. Okay, let's put that in. There we are. We go to secret and it bounces us back to a login form. Well, I will commit that. First of all, I will add the little bits of code that we did. Add the variants. I'll take out a bit of tracing and we'll run our tests. Add a variant of. Okay, so I think that concludes today. That was a lot of fun. A few road bumps along the way, but we got to a point where we were able to demonstrate how an HTTP error code could trigger a redirect to a login box, and really this is a fairly sophisticated behavior for a server that doesn't support any code or allow you to write any code. I mean, Site is a no-code project, and so from that point of view, yeah, it's been quite interesting. But tomorrow, I think what we'll do is get it to redirect. We could log in, and if we successfully log in, to redirect back to the secret. Also, I think we should do a bit of HTML styling on the form itself. Anyway, all that will come tomorrow. Thank you for watching and have a good evening.